The Earthkeeper Manoomin Project has planted over 1 ton of wild rice seeds.
Okay, go ahead. Let her rip. Good job. Oh, Danny, get a good handful.
The at-risk teens involved in the Manoomin Project arrive, in essence, doing community service.
No backswing, that's fine. One more.
After being sentenced in juvenile court for minor crimes.
In front of you. You go out. There you go. Beautiful. Good job.
However, many of the teenagers have so much fun planting and testing the wild rice, they ask to return the next year.
River rice. This is a really different kind of rice than we've seen from other years. This is river, I believe this is the very highly prized river rice. That's just my guess. But it's looking really good.
Over 100 at-risk teens have participated in the Manoomin Project, including these teenagers in 2007. After disappearing from northern Michigan a century ago, wild rice is being restored to 7 remote lakes through the hands of at-risk teenagers and American Indian guides. The project teaches the teens to respect themselves, nature, and American Indian heritage.
You're the first ones to bring it back to this area. So I'm just pleased that you're here. I'm pleased that I'm here. And
the 2007 planting was delayed due to low water levels in Wisconsin, where the seed is purchased and rushed back to the UP for immediate planting. 2007 was the 4th summer of the Manoomin Project. That includes a survey of the crop each July and planting in September.
Fire's prophecy. Each fire represented a different stopping point. We came from the East Coast and we went to the Great Lakes, and at one of the stopping points we were told that we would go to a place where there was food that would grow on water, and that's what we call Manoomin, and that's the wild rice you're planting. So this is it was a gift from the Creator. It was food on the water. It's like somebody had said it was the only North American grain, wild rice, very nutritious.
The annual blessing of the wild rice is held each September in Marquette as a show of respect for the return of the once native grain and to thank the supporters of the Manoomin Project. Native Americans led the prayer of thanks for wild rice planting during the 2006 and 2007 blessing of the wild rice. The 2006 blessing was led by American Indian Don Chosa, and the 2007 blessing was led by Native American Dave Anthony, an NMU student from Lower Michigan. Over 100 people attended the blessing of the wild rice and enjoyed a wide variety of food. The wild rice is prepared in several ways at the blessing, including searing the grain into a crunchy treat mixed with dried fruit. Everyone has a fun time at these blessings of the wild rice. This special Native American platter was prepared as an offering at the 2006 blessing of the wild rice. It was created by American Indian guide Don Chosa. A member of the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community, Don Chosa and the teens bring the natural offering into the woods, where it was placed behind a log during the 2006 blessing. The organizers say these teenagers are truly a joy to work with and only need a little bit of positive attention to grow into the great leaders of tomorrow.
John Magnuson, who works with the Cedar Tree Institute, organized the Manoomin Project. A lot of the kids that were there, at first they were angry, just to be there because it was something that they had to do. But as soon as we started and as soon as they started learning, they started to enjoy it. By the time they were done with 1 year of planting wild rice, they were willing to come back again, even on a volunteer basis, the following year.
In September 2007, Reverend Magnuson was one of the guests on Native American Calling, an American Indian radio talk show. Indian guide Don Chosa and Reverend Magnuson were both interviewed about the Manoomin Project.
From his office in Net Lake on the Boys Fort Reservation in Minnesota is Don Chosa. He currently works as an administrator for the Boys Fort tribal government, and he has also worked with the Manoomin Project in northern Michigan, which integrates the teaching of wild rice to work with at-risk youth.
I was teaching there at Northern Michigan University as a full-time adjunct professor. So I had the opportunity to act as a guide because I knew, the waterways there. And so we worked with adjudicated youth, or people that were offenders that had to perform community service. And because I had worked in a group home for 6 years, I had a lot of experience working with these type of youth. So we had a good time planting wild rice, and it was a lot of work. Besides the work, they got to learn about wild rice and learn about stories about wild rice that I taught them, and the importance of wild rice and the importance of it spiritually. They learn how to cook wild rice. They learn how to plant wild rice. They learn how to harvest wild rice. They learn how to take water samples and just to be outside. A lot of them hadn't been outside very much. So for them it was a good experience because, it was miles and miles of hiking and, mountain climbing and that type of thing.
Okay, well, I'm going to take another call right now. I want to bring in John, who's up in Marquette, Michigan. Hello there, John.
Hello, Harlan.
How's it going?
I'm doing fine. I've been involved with a special project and with a major Ojibwa community here, the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community, in a project called the Manoomin Project. It's part of the Cedar Tree Institute's work. We're a small nonprofit group that works around environmental projects and also with Native community. It was actually Don and I that made the proposal to Tribal Council, and that was 3 years ago, and he's been with us for 3 out of the 4 years. From my perspective, this is part of what a Roman Catholic theologian calls, at least in the non-Indian community, the Great Turning, which means that suddenly we realize the earth is our home. And some of these indicator species, like wild rice, Manoomin, they're like a kind of a sacrament, you might say, in terms of the life and the survival of these species, these native species. There's a lot hanging on the success of these efforts. We've been in this 3 years. We planted about 2,100 pounds, and there was one of your callers earlier that talked about needing to get young people, not just Native people, involved. And this project is led by the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community with the Cedar Tree Institute, and of course with Don and his family these past years. But these kids that we've been working with are all at-risk youth. And the things that I've liked about it, when I see these young people involving themselves in this healing work, this restoration work alongside Native kids, that keeps me going through my darkest times, because it's in the healing of the earth that people find their own healing. It's not disconnected, see? We bring back the rice, man. We're bringing back part of who we are as a human race. And Native people are leading the way here.
In this photo, Native American Indian guide Don Chosa points to wild rice while explaining the tradition to his son. In this photo, Chosa explains a prayer to at-risk teens. Chosa and his family are pictured here overlooking a bluff as the students survey the wild rice in 2006. In addition to the field work, the Manoomin Project includes classroom time and other learning, like Tai Chi relaxation exercises and listening to stories from American Indian elders.
So that's how I got the name Tamamik Nadeshnikos, which is my name from the Tamamik. I also say Ojibwe Nadak. I am Ojibwe Indian.
In July 2007, KBIC Elder Glenn Brissett of Harvey, Michigan, explained how he overcame some of the same obstacles that the at-risk teens are currently facing. Brissett described racism in Marquette when he was young, when his mother told all her children to lie about their American Indian heritage.
When I grew up in Marquette, there was only about 3 Indian families in Marquette back in the early 40s, 50s. And there was a lot of prejudice in Marquette. And I grew up with that prejudice. I was a dirty Indian. I was a stinking Indian. Just an old drunken Indian. I was just a dumb Indian. And that's what I grew up in Marquette. A lot of prejudice. So I grew up with a lot of hate. Hating everybody who wasn't Native American. I hated. And drinking helped me cope with that, but it caused other problems because of it.
The Manoomin Project honors the teenagers and KBIC for working so hard to restore wild rice to northern Michigan. I'm Greg Peterson, and you're watching Earthkeeper TV.